There's a test that detects colon cancer with 94% accuracy. No prep, no sedation, nothing inserted into your body. And it is more accurate than colonoscopy. But almost no one over 45 knows it exists. Think for a moment about someone you know, a friend, a family member, someone who seemed completely healthy at 50 or 60, someone who drank their morning coffee, went to work, laughed, planned for the future, and then suddenly received a diagnosis that changed everything. Colon cancer, advanced stage. The question that follows is never easy to answer. Why wasn't it caught earlier? The answer most of the time is painfully simple. The person knew they needed the test and kept putting it off. Before you judge anyone for that, understand something. The traditional exam has a reputation, and it is not a good one. Days without solid food, a laxative solution you drink through the night to completely empty your intestines, cramps that hit in waves and keep you from sleeping. Then the next morning, sedated on a hospital table, a scope inserted while you lie there, eyes closed, waiting for it to be over. That is not something anyone looks forward to. That is why millions of Americans over 45 simply ignore this test. They know they should do it. They recognize the need, but the body resists. And the mind finds a different reason to wait every single year. Frank knew exactly what that felt like. 67 years old, retired. He tended his garden every morning, hands in the soil, and welcomed his grandchildren on weekends like it was the most important event of the week. A calm man who seemed at peace with life, but every time his doctor brought up colonoscopy, Frank looked away. "I feel fine," he would say. "Nothing is wrong with me." 5 years of annual checkups, 5 times the same deflection. It was not denial. It was something more honest than that. It was fear, not of the diagnosis, of the prep. Have you ever put off an important test because you dreaded the process? If yes, leave a 1 in the comments. You are not alone. The problem is that colon cancer does not wait for you to be ready to face it. It is the second leading cause of cancer death in the world, behind only lung cancer. And the cruelest part is that it grows in total silence. No pain in the early stages. No change in appetite, no disruption to sleep, no visible warning. It starts as a small polyp on the inner wall of the intestine, as discreet as a seed buried in the dark. And for months, sometimes years, it grows while life outside continues completely normal. You eat, you work, you laugh, and it grows. When symptoms finally appear, in many cases the situation has already shifted significantly. But there is another side to this story, the side that changes everything. When detected early, in the initial stages, colon cancer has a cure rate above 90%. That is not a small number. It is the exact distance between a diagnosis you overcome and one that overcomes you. Medical science has moved far beyond traditional colonoscopy, far beyond. There are now 3 non-invasive alternatives for colon cancer screening, some already on the market, and one of them, the most recent and most impressive, was developed by scientists in Switzerland. It was published in one of the most respected scientific journals in the world. It uses artificial intelligence to identify the tumor's pattern before any camera can see a thing. I am saving that one for last, because it deserves that place. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do it now. Turn on the bell. Here you find health information grounded in real science, delivered directly and honestly. My name is Thomas Ellsworth. What you are about to hear may be one of the most important things you learn this year about your intestinal health. But before we get to the alternatives, I need you to feel something. Not just understand it, feel it. Because when you truly grasp what traditional bowel prep does to a person's body, you will stop judging those who delayed. And you will start to understand why what comes next matters so much. Picture this, 10 o'clock at night, the kitchen is dark, your family is asleep. You sit at the table with a large cup in your hand. Inside it, a clear solution. You know what it is going to do. You drink it in small sips, trying not to think about what comes next. In under an hour, the cramps begin. mild at first, then stronger, like pressure building from the inside without asking permission. And you spend the entire night walking back and forth to the bathroom, your body emptying completely, trying to catch a little rest before morning. That is not exaggeration. That is the standard prep for a traditional colonoscopy, described exactly as millions of Americans experience it. And that is why so many people choose not to do it. Not cowardice, a human response, honest and completely understandable in the face of something that feels like punishment for doing nothing wrong. But the problem, as you already know, is what happens when the test is postponed indefinitely. The quiet polyp keeps growing, in silence, without warning. The good news is that medicine did not stand still while people avoided waiting rooms. The first alternative you need to know about has existed for several years. It is called the fecal DNA test. Nancy was 64 when her doctor first mentioned colonoscopy. She left the office with the referral in her purse and kept it there for 6 months. No scheduling, no looking at it. Until one routine visit, her doctor asked directly, "What is stopping you?" She answered with an honesty few people dare say out loud, "I cannot imagine going through that." Her doctor then told her about the fecal DNA test. She had never heard of it. Have you heard of this option? Tell us in the comments. The concept is simple, almost elegant. The cells lining the inside of the intestine constantly renew. When a polyp or tumor is present, those cells release fragments of altered DNA that get eliminated naturally in the stool. The test collects a sample at home, in the privacy of your own bathroom, and sends it to a lab. It looks for altered genetic material and microscopic traces of hidden blood that the human eye could never detect. For average-risk adults 45 and older, it is a real, non-invasive option, covered by Medicare for eligible patients. But there is a catch, and it matters. The test carries a false positive rate of around 13%. That means for every 100 people tested, about 13 will receive a concerning result, even when nothing is actually wrong. And when that happens, the next step is unavoidable. A traditional colonoscopy with all the prep they were trying to avoid. Nancy went through exactly that. Her result flagged a concern. The colonoscopy showed nothing was there, but she went through the experience she had feared all along. If you are still watching and finding this valuable, leave a 1 in the comments. That tells me we are on the right track. The second alternative addresses part of that problem. It is called virtual colonoscopy, or CT colonography. A computed tomography scan of the intestine. Detailed three-dimensional images of the colon's inner wall, generated by a machine outside the body, with nothing inserted during the exam. You walk in, lie down. The machine works around you. In minutes, doctors have a complete view of your intestinal wall, capable of identifying polyps with accuracy comparable to a traditional colonoscopy. Impressive. But there are 2 things almost nobody tells you about it. First, the bowel prep is identical to the traditional procedure. Same liquid diet, same laxative solution, same difficult night. The exam itself is more comfortable. Getting there is not. Second, if a polyp is found, it needs to be removed. And to remove it, you will need a traditional colonoscopy anyway. These are real alternatives, genuine advances. But neither one is the breakthrough researchers were truly looking for. And this is where this video takes a turn most people do not see coming. Because the third alternative did not come from a hospital. It came from a laboratory. And what scientists found there is not a better camera or a thinner scope. It is something no one was looking for. Something that has been alive inside us all along. Inside your intestine right now, there are trillions of bacteria. Not hundreds, not millions, trillions. A dense community, like a microscopic forest, where each species has a function, a balance, a role in how your body works. We call it the gut microbiome. For decades, science studied it mainly as a digestive ally, an immunity regulator, something to maintain through a good diet. But a team of researchers at the University of Geneva began asking a different question. Not what these bacteria do for the body, but what they know about it. And what they discovered changed what medicine believed was possible. When a colon tumor begins to form, even in its earliest stages, invisible to any camera, causing no symptoms, undetectable by any conventional test, the bacteria nearby sense it. The environment shifts. The microbiome's composition changes. Specific subspecies grow, others retreat, as if the intestine's internal ecosystem were quietly reorganizing itself around the threat, the way a forest shifts when something foreign settles within it. And that reorganization leaves a fingerprint. The Swiss scientists used artificial intelligence to learn how to read that fingerprint. They mapped the DNA of bacterial subspecies from hundreds of samples, from colon cancer patients and from healthy individuals. They trained an algorithm to identify the specific pattern that appears when a tumor is present. The result was published in the journal Cell Host and Microbe, one of the world's most respected publications in microbiology and immunology. The accuracy? 94%. Traditional colonoscopy, the current gold standard, reaches 90%. The new AI-based method, built on a simple stool sample, surpasses that number. No sedation, no prep, nothing inserted into the body. A sample collected at home, analyzed by an algorithm trained to detect what the human eye would never see. Think about what that means. The tumor reveals itself not through a camera pointed directly at it, but through a change in the behavior of the bacteria around it, as if the intestine itself were trying to send a signal, in a language we have finally learned to read. This test is not yet widely available to the general public. Science is advancing, but it has not reached the point of making it accessible to every patient. What the research has already proven, however, is that the path exists. The technology works, and the future of colon cancer diagnosis may be as simple as a sample collected at home. Here is what I want you to take from this conversation. If you are 45 or older, prevention is not optional, not something to consider when you feel a symptom. A decision that needs to be made now, with whatever method is available to you. Talk to your doctor. Ask about the fecal DNA test if you are considered average risk. Ask about virtual CT colonoscopy. Understand what your insurance covers. But do not leave that conversation without a concrete plan, because the technology is coming. What science is building is a future where detecting colon cancer is as routine as a standard blood test, without the difficult prep night, without the fear. But that future has not fully arrived, and while it has not, the test available today is infinitely better than no test at all. Frank, after 5 years of delays, finally talked to his doctor about the alternatives. He found out he qualified for the fecal DNA test, did it at home, results came back clean. And he said something simple that stayed with me. I expected it to cost me so much more than it did. Sometimes the fear we build around something is larger than the thing itself. Have you had any preventive testing for your intestinal health? Or are you still in that group that knows they should but keeps putting it off? Tell me in the comments. There is no right or wrong answer here, just a conversation that might make a real difference. And if this video reached you at a moment when you were already thinking about this, maybe that is not a coincidence. Your body has been trying to speak. Science has finally found a way to listen. If this content helped you, like it, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel.